DFS Show with John Impemba and James Grande.
What is going on, FA Nation? John Impemba here with Justin Carlucci. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS Game Day Preview Show. It is Friday, TGIF, all the terms we like to talk about at the end of the week here. We got 6 games on DraftKings. Justin will be on your playbook and be joining me at 5 p.m. Eastern time for the live stream. Grande still out on vacation, though. We all saw him popping into the chat during the live stream, so he'll probably be in the chat on the live stream for 5 o'clock as well. But Justin, man, how was your All-Star break?
It was all right. Just a flop of a weekend. We don't have to rehash everything that everyone read on Twitter and all the critics and everything. I enjoyed watching the Rising Stars more than the All-Star game itself. And I kind of turned the All-Star game off, a third of the way and just said, I'd rather do anything else at this point. So just a shame. It's just not what it used to be when we were growing up and what we were accustomed to. And, even the early 2010s, Blake Griffin was jumping over cars and taking nothing away from Max McClung. Guy's cool. He's a great dunker, but just doesn't have the same aura, man, as the high profile names that we were accustomed to seeing.
Yeah. So somewhere along the way, generationally, it seems like was it the millennial athlete or something like that, where they just don't care as much about these all-star weekends. And it's not just, to the NBA. It is really across all sports. The NFL had to basically turn it into a skills and flag football competition. The NHL did away, and they're doing the Four Nations, and everybody loves what the Four Nations. And that final's going on right now as we're recording. But they did the skills competition last year where it was basically a mockery at the NHL level. Nobody cared about what was going on, even the players. And then obviously the MLB, they just do the home run derby. There's a little bit of a different competitiveness level there. But again, when we were growing up, like the players mattered. There was rivalries. They weren't friendly, like all of those things. And yet here we are now, and the leagues are trying to figure out what to do. Some players have just suggested, like, how you just give us the week off. And that's kind of like a sad thing. It's just the league wants it from a moneymaker's perspective. It doesn't seemingly have the fan engagement it once was, especially if the players themselves don't care to really be there. So, it's as you said, unfortunate, but I guess it kind of is the way that things have been trending lately.
Yeah. I think it's two things. It's money and injuries and bruised egos. No one wants to get hurt. Everyone wants to bag. Many players hold out, and no one wants to get shown up because you go viral on social media. If the heavy favorite loses the dunk contest, they kind of have a negative stigma attached to them, and everyone kind of laughs for a long time about it. And everyone's afraid to get their feelings hurt too. So it just stinks. I can understand the NFL, contact sport, for the most part, but it is what it is. It was a nice break for us, content creators, but it was a quick one because baseball's here. And
we were writing baseball articles, you and I, during the break. So, definitely was no rest, just rest from the NBA DFS. But we're back. We had a big 9-game slate. Keith did a great job in the playbook, getting us ready for there. And now we got 6 games to talk about here. So your top price guys, and there are some back-to-backs. So we'll have to see who plays right out of the gate on some of these back-to-backs. We saw Thursday, both LaMelo and Luka Doncic didn't play second leg of back-to-backs after playing that Wednesday game. Here we have Giannis as our top price player on the slate, but he missed a lot of time before the All-Star break. Came back. He is active and playing in the Thursday game. Will he suit up? Second leg of a back-to-back against Washington. Well, that remains to be seen. Cade Cunningham's your only other player up over $10,000 healthy on this slate. Wemby out for the season. Big storyline there on Thursday. And Anthony Davis, obviously still a couple of weeks away with his core muscle, groin, whatever body injury that he is dealing with there. So looking at the point guard position, you have Cade Cunningham at $10,300. You have Damian Lillard at $9,500. Again, Milwaukee on a back-to-back. Kyrie Irving at $93,000. Scotty Barnes at $9,200 is your top 4 priced point guards on the slate.
Yeah, Cade's obviously having a sensational season, and this is a slate with one less spend up. There's a huge gap between all the top priced players. De'Aaron Fox should probably be closer to 10K on the slate without Wemby, I guess you could say. But in terms of just point guard itself, I do like Cade, and the Wemby situation, and thoughts out to him, thoughts and prayers to Wemby, because it sounds pretty serious, and it's a real shame. But it's a big domino effect, not only with all the Spurs that everyone talked about on Thursday in terms of usage and who's going to step up, but when Wemby's off the court this year, opponents have an offensive rating that's almost 7 points higher. Obviously, he's just a big dude, can block shots and alter a lot of stuff. So I think Wemby off the court is a massive deal, especially for a guy like Cade, who loves to slash, attack, and either, score at will or distribute and make life easier for other people. So I can't see Cade, it's early. There's going to be a lot of news. You mentioned the back-to-backs. I'm guessing he comes in at probably a fair ownership at a very high price tag. And I think he's one of my favorite tournament targets, especially if there's chalk Spurs. I haven't looked ahead. I don't know what the tags are, but he seems like a really nice run back if there's going to be some Spurs in play on Friday.
Yeah, we, because kind of looking a little bit ahead, again, San Antonio is on the back-to-back. Memphis is on the back-to-back. We know Memphis has certainly sat some guys this year. John Morant, they've been kind of monitoring some of his minutes there. Jalen Brunson, the Knicks are on second legs of back-to-back. Not that the Knicks often sit anybody, but you mentioned San Antonio. De'Aaron Fox is just $7,900 on the Thursday slate. They had a whole day to know that Wemby's out for the year, and yet they moved him to $8,200. So a $300 bump for De'Aaron Fox here at home against Detroit. Fox was projected to be over 50% rostered on the Thursday slate. At this price point on a smaller slate now, I don't see why he still wouldn't be like 30+% owned at $8,200 here.
Yeah, I think they probably didn't move the needle enough for Fox, all things considered. Now, when we talk about some of these cheaper guys that are kind of in enhanced roles now, you have to think twice about some of them, just because they're more volatile with scarier floors. I'm running really poorly, even over break. I'm freelancing here and there. I wrote an article about winners and losers of the trade deadline, and Devin Vassell was a loser just because of De'Aaron Fox in town and stealing some usage. But you take Wemby off the court and, well, forget what I wrote 2 days ago, because all these Spurs are well back in play until the prices, rise even more. So Fox for me is a yes, barring any kind of crazy, we're going to rest him on a second leg of a back-to-back. But I can't imagine that would be a thing.
Yeah, I would agree with you here. I think, if you aren't playing Cade, unless Giannis gets ruled out, where then Lillard obviously becomes like an absolute smash here against Washington. Again, it's no disrespect to Kyrie Irving and what he can do against New Orleans, but you're getting just an $1,100 discount on a guy like Fox, who should be priced up at the very least with the Irvings and Lillards when he's kind of having a team to himself here. So I like the value there. At $8,200. I like McCollum. I like Jordan Poole in that range as well. I think all three of those plays here, given their matchups, are good spots.
Yeah, you mentioned Kyrie, and no knock on Kyrie. I think he's in a great spot as well. Yeah. We don't have totals on all the games, but really big, 235.5 total, and the depleted Mavs are 5-point favorites. So there aren't going to be many situations when this Mavs state of the union and the state of the roster is going to be a 5-point favorite with a big total. So yeah. I think you can definitely try to create some rosters with Kyrie and Fox. Obviously, you probably won't be able to, cram Cade in that scenario as well. But yeah. I do like Kyrie quite a bit. Moving down the list, you mentioned a couple guys. Knicks on a back-to-back, missing some bodies on Thursday. OG was questionable. Kind of thought he would play, especially after Hart got ruled out. Turns out he did not. So the Knicks are going to be a key cog again to Friday's slate. And of course, Cleveland is kind of a bit of a rough matchup. Of course, slow, good defensively. We all know that, but. What do we know about New York, right? Big minutes for the starters, condensed usage rates, and things like that. So the Knicks, hopefully we get some nice late lunchtime post shoot around news to figure out where Jalen Brunson is in this equation.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, no kidding. Cleveland, obviously a really tough matchup, but the Knicks, when they're shorthanded and just in general, you get Brunson playing 38, 40 minutes. Sometimes it just doesn't really matter there. Again, McCollum, we know, I guess we'll have to check on the Zion status. Is Zion good to go here? Yeah, not on the injury report. So you'll have the big three there with McCollum, Zion, and Murphy. Zion is a usage hog. So one of those other two guys generally maybe take a step back. But again, Dallas is not a good defensive team, and they're hurting. And then you have Jordan Poole. Malcolm Brogdon already ruled out. Poole with 240+ actual games in the last 4 going into the break. So we've seen just a ridiculous scoring ceiling. Now, Middleton and Marcus Smart are not on the injury report. So could have the debuts for Middleton and Marcus Smart here for Washington. how that plays with Poole, I don't really know. Do you think that either of those two would make a big dent in the usage that Poole has when on the floor?
I wouldn't say like a huge dent. If you kind of take a step back and think about Washington before the trade deadline, he still had to deal with Valanciunas and his usage for 20, 25 minutes, Kuzma when he was healthy. So I don't know. It's almost kind of a wash. I can't envision Smart and Middleton playing mega minutes on their debut, especially since I guess I'm kind of shocked that they're a part of this Wizards equation right now because they're kind of, I mean, I know there's some expiring contracts and some money and but I thought maybe there's going to be some buyout interest or whatever. I haven't really dove into the contracts, but no, I still like Poole. I know you like picking on Milwaukee, and they're on a back-to-back game. And on Thursday, Giannis and Dame are expected to play just limited minutes. So does that mean we see one of them sit tomorrow? So I think Poole is squarely in play. I wouldn't run away from him. He's just volatile all over the place, seems to fail and everyone loves him, and pop when nobody wants to play him.
Yeah. They didn't really do much here with Castle in terms of pricing. Again, they moved him up to 64. Paul didn't get much move in pricing. What do we think of Stephen Castle and I guess the rest of these Spurs? Are you maybe just waiting and seeing how it all plays out on Thursday before you kind of react to where Paul and Castle kind of are with their minutes?
Yeah, I'd like to see what this rotation looks like. I really like Castle. I like the upside. I think the buzz is warranted. I still think the price might be a little steep. I know there's more usage opening up, but the fact that De'Aaron Fox is in the equation now in that backcourt kind of is still detrimental to Castle. That's a tough price tag. Detroit, pretty good defensively this year, pretty slow. So I listen, I like the player. I like the upside. Sure, he could pop for 6x value, but I don't think this is a situation I want to go to him. Chris Paul, I just, the price is fine. He should give you a floor based on not scoring, but God,
the assist numbers I think are pretty just stable with him. Now again, you are taking Wemby out of the equation. That's a huge offensive player off the floor that they're going to have a lot of trouble, obviously, replacing. Now, maybe Chris Paul picks up a little bit of the offensive scoring, but $5,600 for him, I think is kind of an interesting spot. Again, Castle leaping him in price. I was playing a lot of Carrington, at some of the price points in tournaments lately. But again, I don't know now with Marcus Smart, what his role is going to be. Is he going to be playing these high 30s minutes now? What do you think of Carrington here?
Yeah, I don't know. And there are times where I like to attack the unknown, but I'm not confident in this one. So, Carrington's fairly priced. I think I just need to take a step back for single entry and kind of maybe go somewhere else. My same price range there. I know we talked about the big quote unquote 3 in New Orleans likely being intact, but I mean, if Alvarado is going to play mid 30s minutes, does it matter? Big assist numbers. I want to look up his potential assist. If it's good, I will write about it on Friday. I don't know what it is, but he's a guy who can rack up multiple steals. Pesky dude can score in different ways. So even with the big 3 intact, I don't think scoring in the teens is unreasonable, and you can kind of see the damage he did. Of course, that was without Zion in at least one of those games. So good tournament target, I think, at that price for Alvarado.
I agree. Value range here for you. Again, Cleveland is on a back-to-back. The Knicks are on a back-to-back, so there could be some additional things opening up here. Memphis on a back-to-back. Milwaukee, as we said, if Dame gets ruled out, you have KPJ down here. What do you think goes on in the value range?
Yeah, Ty Jerome I want to see what his situation continues to look like. I'm looking up right now. He's played 10 minutes with 4 minutes left in the second quarter. So
on pace for about a 20-minute game there.
Yeah, and he's a high usage guy. He's not just going to stand in the corner with his hands in his pocket and wait for the pass. So yeah, I think he's interesting. This is a big Eastern Conference game, though. It's going to be the weekend. I think maybe there's less of a chance of a star sitting than maybe under a normal circumstance if they were playing a bottom feeder. But I think Jerome is a guy who could pop, so I don't mind him for tournaments. But I just need to see some more value. I'm confident in opening up.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Shooting guard again, Trey Murphy $8,400, Donnie Mitch at 83, Desmond Bain 75. You have RJ Barrett at 72. Kind of the top 5 we haven't yet discussed. I've been a big Trey Murphy guy this year. when Zion hasn't been on the floor. He's had some huge ceilings. He's also performed well in some games with Zion. A little cold spell from 3-point within that Sacramento matchup, just 2 for 15 for a guy that is a really good knockdown 3-point shooter. So could have had some even bigger performances there. Where do you rank Murphy here at shooting guard, and any core targets for you among that group?
I'm with you. I think Murphy's like the best player in basketball the masses don't talk about enough. Of course, we'd prefer one of the big three out here. So I don't like him as much as if Zion were to sit, but I think if I multi-enter, I will certainly have some shares. I always will play Franz in this current state of the Magic roster and his role when he's sub 9K. They're on a back-to-back, of course. Memphis is as well, and that should be a nice pace-up spot. So I like Franz if I'm looking. I'm on small forward. Excuse me. My shooting guard, small forward overlap. Yeah. Spoiler alert! I also like Franz, but no, I don't dislike Murphy. But Fox is the guy in this range who is a big decision point, and nothing else is really sticking out to me. Bane in a tough matchup against Orlando. McCollum, I don't really think has a ceiling at 8K. I mean, he does, but it's probably far and few in between.
Yeah, better without Zion on the floor for sure.
Yeah. And Barrett, I mean, God, that game environment is likely to be just so ugly. He was really good in the last 2 games before the break, even with Quickly back, though. So maybe we're going to see some like early season RJ Barrett appear. But again, I'm not playing him in single entry. So tough group here.
The mid-tier, again, has Koulibaly, which, again, the Washington team, just in general, we got to figure out how Middleton and Smart figure into it. It's not that I think Koulibaly is going to lose out minutes to those guys. He should be a staple for 30-plus minutes, but production-wise, he could take a hit there. Smart is a green light shooter, giving himself the green light, never necessarily given it by the team, but he is not afraid to shoot. We know what Middleton can obviously do. But Vassell and Beasley here, $6K and $5,600, kind of going up against one another. And then below them, you have Thompson and Christie. Christie's been really good lately. I think that's a group to take a look at.
Yeah, I like Christie a lot. Before the break, he posted a season high 25% usage rate. The minutes have been fantastic. He's really growing into, like, at worst, a good role player in the NBA, it looks like at worst. So I think the Christie trend will continue. And like we talked about earlier, big game total here, competitive spread. He'll probably pop in a lot of optimizers and carry some rightful ownership, but I think it's good. I think it's good chalk.
Yep, agreed. Any other values at shooting guard for you?
Well, I think it's worth noting, just keeping track of our Thursday chaos here. Cole Anthony was sick, left the game, and then came back to the bench. So we will see, what his status is. Maybe that opens the door for some other people in the rotation to step up. Sure. I don't know.
You see, like, Anthony Black play more minutes or something like that?
Yeah, it's very possible. We'll have to see what Gary Trent looks like tomorrow after news. Again, back-to-back from Milwaukee. Trent's been better more times than he's been not
he's off
lately.
To okay start right now, 2 for 3 with a 3-pointer already and a couple of minutes played. So
Wizards matchup, nice one to attack. So I think he's a tournament option. Other than Max Christie, like when you get to the other Dallas value pieces, it's just a mess to figure out. Like, do you really want to play Exum at 46 or, I don't know. Miles McBride.
We talked Exum was it right before the break, right? We did not anticipate Exum going 11 of 13 in 24 minutes. Hard to just predict outlier games like that. So
great call. I mean, I mean, that's, he's no slouch, right? Played for Australia in the Olympics. Like, the dude is a baller, former top, lottery pick in the draft a couple of years ago. I don't hate it, but it's tough to figure out like which one of these sidecar pieces is going to have the game. Christie is by far the most, secured ones for minutes in a role. One more guy is, the Knicks situation, of course. Miles McBride started Thursday, so we'll have to see who's out again for the Knicks on Friday. Agreed.
Small forward, I mentioned already, you like Franz Wagner. No arguments here against Memphis, who's getting their doors blown off right now by the Pacers. That was a 249.5 game total with like a 1.5 point spread, and Indiana is up 85-67 halfway through the third quarter here. So Memphis not enjoying their return from the All-Star break. As of now, the NBA is a game of runs, so maybe something happens as they close out the third. But 5 minutes into the third quarter, they're down 18 points here to the Indiana Pacers. But Wagner, obviously 8,700, good spot. How about this? Zion Williamson has small forward eligibility. First time we've seen
Wow.
Zion with small forward eligibility this year, making him a bit more, I don't know, easier to play, I guess, with the dual position eligibility there. $8,500 for Zion. Zion has been a menace when on the floor this year. You take
Yeah.
out that tough game against the Thunder, really, and he has been very good. I would have a lot of interest in Zion here. I understand he's seemingly capped at 28 minutes and $8,500. That might make you a little queasy, but 50 plus fantasy points in 2 of the last 3 games will play in the 28 minutes. And Dallas, again, not a good defensive team, missing a lot of key pieces. They could have PJ Washington back, but other than that, I mean, their front court is decimated.
Yeah, I have interest in both these New Orleans guys. It's a situation, if I'm multi-entering, I probably set a build rule in my optimizer to not ever have them paired together in the same lineup.
Sure.
Big negative correlation, obviously. So, yeah, I really can't argue there. Yeah, it's monster usage rate for Zion when he's been on the floor. Mikal Bridges, kind of the forgotten Nick on Thursday. It hasn't been good, but the minutes are always there. And, when you're missing a couple of forwards, someone has to step up. So we'll see how he plays Thursday. Tough matchup against Cleveland. But other than that, I agree. The top is much better than the kind of second tier here. Wiggins getting big minutes, but just a lot of bodies there, and hasn't really found his footing
Hero
offensively.
has a questionable tag. Probable. Hero's probable. Okay, so he's probably going to play.
All right.
Kuzma, I mean, again, against Washington, you want to talk a little revenge game if you believe in those things. But, if Giannis or Dame or both sit, there's no Bobby Portis for 25 games. So it could be just an all-day usage Kuzma here against the Wizards at $6,900.
Yeah, we'll see. Obviously, news dependent, but he could be one of the best players on the slate by 4:00 for sure.
Definitely will. Najee Marshall is somebody that we looked to target the other day because, again, how about depleted they've been. If they continue to be without PJ Washington, probably still gets around 30 minutes anyways. He's been pretty good. And again, the Pelicans are not a good defensive team, so $5,700 for Najee Marshall in the mid tier, I think, could fit some lineup builds.
Yeah, I'm with you. High floor, whenever he has a chance to crack 30 minutes, he can usually do some damage. A little bit of a revenge game too, if you're into that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I'm with you. Yep.
Okay, we talked that. Middleton, we don't know. Christie's good. Oscar Thompson, $5,300. Again, started to trend in the right direction recently with his not just his production, the minutes have kind of been better than we've seen him earlier this year. Maybe they finally just kind of let this guy go. $5,300. He's giving you 6-7x return these last 5 games.
Yeah, I mean, there are some mouths to feed with Malik Beasley, and they kind of butt heads for playing time sometimes. But man, he is kind of just, in terms of fantasy production, a lesser version of his brother right now. I mean, maybe if he had the same 40-minute burn that his brother did, we'd be talking about him too. So I love it for tournaments. I think it's a great call.
Yeah, anytime you can get a guy like this, just again, we know he's a volatile player. Fouls can certainly be a problem, but great stocks guy. And now you're getting all of these, secondary numbers as well. And more importantly, he's actually making his shots, right? He's a guy that plays around the rim. He doesn't shoot threes. So I like Thompson and think there's a pretty decent ceiling. If you tuned into the live stream, I made a joke, or not a joke, just read off the stats. With Victor Wembanyama off the floor and De'Aaron Fox on the floor, Harrison Barnes is a 32% usage rate. We'll see if that carries over to today's game or not with Wemby, but small sample size, Harry B having some pretty decent production without Wembanyama on the floor since Fox came to town. Would you have any interest in Barnes at 53?
Always a tough pill to swallow playing, the elder statesman, but this situation is so fluid, and I think it's a good price for him because you definitely have to think about it now. I think Detroit's a little bit of a tough matchup. Really want to see what that Thursday rotation looks like, but I can't argue with you. I mean, he the usage rate speaks for itself, but man, he's a tough click sometimes.
I agree. Obviously, Max Strus is a guy that's always kind of in play. We have Keldon Johnson here, like you said. We'll see what the San Antonio rotation looks like. But if Keldon comes out of this Thursday game with 28 minutes, you're going to get him at $4,400. I think he's going to be one of the first plugs we put into our lineups.
I agree. That's why his nickname is the Big Body. We'll see if they decide to use him. I'm sure we'll see a little Jeremy Sohan at the 5.
Yeah.
But, they need to use some Keldon. I mean, he's capable. it's like, I get it. You have Jaren Duran, but he's not some dominant, gigantic presence. So I think they could run a little smaller stretch 5 if they want to.
Sure. And then any other value here? Again, I guess we'd see if Champagne got dusted off at all, but I don't think there's much else down here for me. Anything for you?
No, I just think as the Pelicans continue to rest guys and whoever they play throughout the weekend, we're eventually going to see more of Bruce Brown and more of Kelly Olynyk.
Sure.
Don't think they're great clicks tomorrow, but just something to keep an eye on as the Pelicans continue their shenanigans with Zion and company.
Sure. Power forward again. Giannis is your top price guy at 11-5. We'll see if he plays the second leg of this back-to-back or not, but would be an elite matchup against Washington, of course. We mentioned Zion. You have Mobley versus the Knicks at 84, Ben Caro's 83, Triple J at 82, Bam with the power forward eligibility at $8,100.
Yeah, agreed. We talked about some of these guys. Giannis in the back-to-back. Don't know what it's going to look like with his minutes. So, pumping the brakes for now. I like this Magic Memphis game. I'm guessing if it's a blowout, we won't see like crazy extensive run from the Grizzlies anyway. So yep. I don't think they'll pull a lot of wacky business here. So I think Palo is really interesting. He was playing much better before the break. Jaren Jackson, tough matchup, but always a live candidate for like 4 stocks. So,
yep.
1% GPP play, Jaren Jackson. Probably we need PJ Washington, information because he just has been fantastic when Luka and a bunch of others have been out of the lineup this season.
Yeah, he's been a rebounding machine when those guys have been out of the lineup. He'd probably play their starting center spot, honestly, given who they have there with no Gafford, no Lively. So definitely want to watch what's going on there. As I mentioned to you before, Memphis was down big. Well, they're not. That's because Jaren Jackson went on a monster run. They're now down only 9. When I last referenced them, they were down 17. So Triple J having himself a third quarter. So he'd be coming into this Friday slate with a nice little number next to his box score there. Again, Precious Achiuwa is someone to watch. We'll see what happens here. Double big feels like a matchup, a lineup they'll go to against Cleveland. Most teams do. So while you mentioned McBride, is someone that got the start. Obviously they have Achiuwa anyways there without OG. If the OG comes back, they still may go Precious here and just kind of match up with the big lineup that Cleveland's going to put on the floor.
He's been pretty damn good. Like, I think he's exceeded expectations for the role he's been thrusted in at times when he's been, 40 minutes for this guy. I never would have saw that coming, a year and a half ago. And of course, you put on a Knicks uniform, you're always live for 40 minutes. But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's been really good.
So.
Yeah, price kind of up there now. Cleveland's a tough matchup, but you're right. Like, he should see the 35 plus minutes in a competitive game. We'll see who's in and who's out. We briefly talked Wizards and Milwaukee. Middleton is interesting because we just saw him record such a high usage rate for the Bucks when he played, right? And we saw him push, 26 minutes there in the game log. Get a good 26 minutes against your former team in a game where there might not be much defense. I don't mind Middleton for large field GPPs. It's not fun, but he's cheap enough where you're like, you can talk me into hitting 7 times value on a really good night.
Sure. They moved up the price on Sohan obviously pretty quickly, as they should have. Again, this guy was 60% rostered on the Thursday slate, or expected to be. I don't imagine that goes away unless they go big Biyombo minutes tonight. Like, do they swerve everybody and it's not Sohan or what? But if he gets the majority of the minutes at the 5 today for San Antonio, I think a $5,500 price tag again would just be something we'd pretty quickly click into our lineups again.
Yeah, if he starts, kind of don't even think about it, right? If he comes off the bench or his role is murky on Thursday, it's a different discussion.
Agreed. Let's see. You got Hunter, Jovic, again, Prosper. It's a guy that's been playing minutes. If they're without PJ Washington again, we'd probably go back to the Prosper well. Mobo, someone that's been getting a lot of run. They ruled out Jakob Poeltl again, so Mobo's probably going to start at center for them.
Yeah, and those guys, those price tags are tough for me. Don't get me wrong. We've seen the range of outcomes. We've seen them hit their ceiling games at times, but I mean, none of them are like high usage players. So I'm not thrilled about this Miami-Toronto game environment. I know we talked about the big total for Dallas. I would say if PJ is out, then I'm more interested in Prosper. So if PJ is in, I'll probably not play Prosper.
And then they played small ball center with Kessler Edwards. So if everything stays the same, status quo with their lineup like it's been, 40 and 33 minutes the last 2 games for Kessler Edwards, you'd almost just have to play him at this point.
I guess, yeah. Oh man, what a world we're living in.
I agree.
I don't like the tag, but I love the minutes. I think Zion could feast. I guess I'm a little concerned about foul trouble. Of course, it's hard to predict, but I think the more we talk about this game and how depleted Dallas is,
we just hope PJ Washington actually plays.
Yeah, they really need him. Again, if Washington's in, I'm less interested in Kessler Edwards, so they kind of correlate for me.
Sure. Samuel Diamond's 4,500. He's just always a tournament guy that I like. He's having an okay day here on the Thursday slate. Knocked down a couple of threes, doing the typical Sandy Aldama role. So we'll see kind of where they all end up with Zach Edey and the back-to-back and all this here. Center. Again, Giannis, we'll see. Towns, $9,800. Towns, shooting-wise tonight, not very good. 2 for 15 from the floor. 1 for 7 from 3 in the first half of that game, but he does have 6 points, 12 rebounds. You'd expect better performance against Chicago. Tougher matchup awaits him against Cleveland. Do you find yourself interested in any of these spend ups at the center spot?
For large field stuff, I will like Towns. I feel like he won't be extremely popular. The matchup's not great. The price is up a little, but if they're down a body or two, I'm still going to be interested. They're going to need him to do more damage. But Mobley is interesting. Big game. I feel like he's going to get up for this one. That's not a very analytical analysis, but we've seen his ceiling. So I think he's interesting, and I don't think a lot of people are going to go there. I'm curious to see what happens with Giannis. I mean, now that Bobby Portis isn't in the fold either. Things could get weird in Milwaukee rather quickly.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see how that whole rotation pans out now that there's 25 minutes just to go to somebody. Jalen Duren's been really good. Obviously, his assist numbers have been what's kind of sparking a lot of this production. They kind of made a comment a couple of games ago that they like Duren sort of facilitating their offense a little bit now. And at times he's even brought the ball up. And now you see the assist numbers. The last 4 games since those comments: 7, 6, 5, and 5. One of those was obviously in the huge blowout game. He rarely plays more than the 30 minutes, so you kind of know he's a little bit capped there. But again, if San Antonio is going to be playing, Sohan and Biombo or whatever at center, like Duren's going to be in a good spot, double here.
I like it, and that's just, it's so weird. He doesn't strike me as the facilitator, but you love it for fantasy purposes, and anytime you can get that 30-minute mark out of him, he's live. He's very volatile, right? Loves foul trouble, loves being inconsistent, but boy, can he smash a box score.
Yeah, hopefully less foul trouble now that Wemby's not the opponent on this one, so we'll see there. But I'll tell you this, if once again I go and look at Underdog and PrizePicks tomorrow and his assist numbers at 3.5, we're hammering the over on that. We're just going to keep playing it.
Yep, I'm with you.
Again, Bam's there, so I'm a little iffy on where, even that matchup against Toronto. Brook Lopez, certainly, not having a backup behind him now, maybe there leads to some more minutes going his way. Like, he already plays a lot. Centers do smash Washington, so there is at least that, especially if Giannis ends up sitting and Lopez is there. Like, no Giannis, no Portis. Like, Lopez could have himself a pretty big game there.
I have such a high level of respect for Brook Lopez, how he just totally did a 180 with his game. He could not shoot the ball to save his life when he came into the league, and he really extended his career. Magical matchup for centers against Washington. Father Time's crept up to Brook though a little bit, but you're right. If Giannis sits, they're really going to need him. Now the guy you just clicked on. Now we're talking. Now Valanciunas is out of the picture. 32 minutes before the break.
Yep.
I think the arrow is pointing north for Mr. Sarr.
Yeah, I like Alexander Sarr a lot. Again, he's a good stocks guy. He gave you 3 in that game, or 2 in the game there, 3 in the game prior where he played 31 minutes. And like you said, now there's no one to really take him off the floor. So I do like Sarr a lot there. Again, Jovic, dart throw play, the Orlando centers, I guess I'd have to kind of see maybe where New Orleans goes, but because is Messi questionable? Yeah, Messi's questionable. So it'd be interesting to see what New Orleans ends up doing if they went Mektovic or they went Olynyk or something here if he was the miss, but that's probably it for me at the center spot. Anything else for you?
No, just worth noting, Wendell Carter started over Goga. We're 8:50 p.m. Eastern here. It's halftime of that Orlando game. He played 15 minutes to Goga's 8. He's cheap. He might project well, but, scary floor for Wendell Carter. But I do like that pace-up spot for Orlando quite a bit.
Agreed. I love the price tag. It's really good. I love playing Wendell Carter last year. This year, they just like Goga, and they've split their time, so it's been a little bit more difficult. And he's been very inconsistent in his own right, so it's hurting himself there. All right, let's get a lineup build going here. I still feel like, at least for the sake of current now, we should still play probably Sohan in that crew. Do you feel the same, or
yeah? I think that's a good starting point for now.
Yeah,
and we don't know what the Knicks are going to look like, so I guess we just need to assume that they will be active. I mean, who knows?
Agreed. Let's see. I like Duran on the other side of that matchup.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't a lot of value we talked about that I was in love with yet. I mean, there will be probably by tomorrow.
Yeah,
but I think
like the Dallas news would change a lot, right? Because then we could play someone like Prosper, and even though they're not as cheap as they used to be, but it'd be a little bit cheaper. Like, Strus is going to get minutes at $4,600. Aldama has his usual role on that team.
Ty
Jerome's probably good for 20 minutes. So
do like Ty Jerome for tournaments. Max Christie, I think he's like one of the safer mid options. A nice little balance build here. Yeah. For now is probably the way.
There's only two guys over 10K on the slate, so I think fair and balance is probably going to be a kind of a popular.
That's true. That's true.
Here.
That's true.
Let's see. We liked Vassell. I don't want to just full stack Detroit Dallas, so that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, it's funny because I need to dig in more tomorrow. Obviously, like in theory, it sounds good, but I just don't know if I love that game environment for the Spurs as much.
Yeah,
as I.
Because you're right, Detroit is good defensively, right? You're just trying to like anticipate just the absence of all that usage that Wemby goes away from, right? And they're not as cheap. If you went away from Vassell, maybe I still think Sohan's probably an okay play, and Fox.
Sohan, I like Fox. Like I think 2 Spurs is at least right now the sweet spot. I
agree.
I think that's fine. Yeah, there we go. I like that.
We'll do a little stack there. We'll do that little stack. That gives us 67. For a util and a forward, and of course we can go down and maybe go up somewhere. So, like you liked
Alvarado is good call. I'm glad you put him in there. I'm not like banging the table right now to play Alvarado, but he's such a tournament play because he can just fill it up.
Zion there would be 49 for a util.
Yeah,
still be like Mobo, or
you could play Edwards if PJ's out.
Yeah, if Edwards, if PJ was out, right? Again, Strus would just be the minutes plug. It's probably just gonna be Mobo for now. I don't love it, but I think the minutes are safer for him.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. Be a different story if Goga actually starts for some reason. I mean, could they start Goga against Edey if Edey starts?
Yeah, so this is just a first look example lineup. Again, we'll be back live at 5 p.m. Eastern time, and hopefully by then, on Friday, we'll have some more injury clarity, and we can figure out if there's better value available to us on the slate. Like if Milwaukee sits a Dame and we have a KPJ or a Ryan Rollins or something to play, or Giannis sits and all that stuff. So at least for now, Fox, Christie, Thompson, Sohan, Duran, Alvarado, Williamson, and Mobo. No dollars left over. Justin will be on your playbook. We'll be live again at 5 p.m. Eastern time. Let us know in the comment section who you're looking to play on this 6-game main slate. Until then, everybody, we'll catch you later.